Hello everybody and welcome to Letterbox Book Club. I'm Mackenzie.
And I'm Claire.
And today we will be discussing the sequel to If He Had Been With Me, If Only I Had Told Her by Laura Nowlin.
Yep. We can do the verb. Sorry. It just feels so
I don't know
weird.
if you're going to add anything.
No,
so.
yeah, it's alright.
Right, let me have a drink.
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
Oh.
Devastating sequel as always.
Yes, this is also our second time using our mini mics.
Yep.
So it's very exciting.
The audio difference will be very apparent.
Is it?
Between when we don't use these and the other ones that we use.
Yeah,
it's just the same, I think. It just depends.
Is there ASMR different?
Yeah, you can definitely hear more. Like, if you rustle, you'll definitely hear the rustling. And, like, maybe a sip, perhaps. I don't know.
Nice.
Just the visual of you having to prove that you can do that ASMR.
Look, I'm here. Hang on. Oh, it doesn't say it for speech, but when you laugh, it says, like, laughter.
Oh,
yeah, it's really
cool.
There.
I believe you. A live caption. She's talented. Those fake
and then
laughs.
also transcript.
Oh, a live transcript.
Yeah, live transcript.
I love it. Not that we actually need it, as we're just talking shit, but I love it. Alright, we digress.
Okay,
Thank you for the Google Pixel Tech sponsor.
You're welcome. Google is superior always. If only I'd told her that I loved her years ago, then I wouldn't be here now. Finn has always loved Autumn. She's not just the girl next door or his mother's best friend's daughter. She is his everything. But she's not his girlfriend. That's Sylvie, and Finn would never hurt her. So there's no way Autumn could know how he truly feels. Jack, Finn's best friend, isn't so sure. He's seen Finn and Autumn together. How could she not know? And how is he supposed to support and protect Finn when heartache seems inevitable? Autumn surrounds herself with books and wants to write her own destiny. But one doesn't always get a new chapter, and fate can be cruel to those in love. Told through 3 different perspectives, If Only I Had Told Her is a love story brimming with truth, tragedy, and the unexpected bonds that heal us.
Love it.
I feel like we never do this, but I'm going to start a new thing where we say when these were published. It says copyright 2024.
I highly doubt it was released in 2024.
It usually says, like, first published.
Oh yeah, originally published 6th of February 2024.
That's crazy.
It's this year, Jesus.
Wow. We always do this to ourselves.
We time it very well, accidentally.
Yeah. Also, we didn't do this in the last one, but content warning. This novel includes depictions of death, depression, suicide, and pregnancy.
There are issues you cannot handle. Feel free to click away or just carry on.
I'm going to go turn my heater down because I've become stiflingly hot.
Alrighty, thoughts, feelings, and emotions, Candy.
I loved this book. I love the different point of views. I love Jack. I hated Jack at some points, but I love Jack. This book reminds me of You've Reached Sam, and You've Reached Sam was one of my favourite books ever because it just reminds me of adolescents dealing with grief and how not linear that is and the consequences of actions. And, you know, as a teenager, everything is the end of the world and life and death, truly, and just how your actions can affect other people over years. It's not just a moment, but over years. And again, I love the innocence of the romance in it. And I have a qualm, and I think that you will have the same qualm.
I don't think I've really noticed any qualms, but maybe...
Not a qualm, but an observation, I guess.
Okay.
Anyway, that is all. Over to you.
All right. Yeah, my thoughts, feelings, and emotions. I enjoyed it as well. I really enjoyed the 3 pods, and then, you know, the linear kind of aspect of the journeys of, you know, finding out Finn died, especially like for Jack, and, you know, Finn's emotions leading up to his death and like all his thoughts and emotions. I really enjoyed Autumn's perspective as well, because, you know, goes to show she's trying really hard to be better and to live life for herself. Because at the end of the first book, you kind of just realize, well, you can just make up your own kind of little happy ending, even though she's just ended up staying at the mental hospital or whatever. Yeah, some powerful sort of conversations as well, and ideas and messaging spread throughout, which is very interesting for such, like an adolescent, young adult sort of book. Like, there are themes of Autumn talking to her mother about, well, does she, want to keep the pregnancy for herself, and if that's something that she needs to decide.
Yeah.
And
Or
she needs
if
to
she just wants to keep it for Finny, because that is a conversation as well that comes out where she's like, oh, well, I'm just doing it for Finny. And her mom's like, well, no, you need to do it for yourself as well.
And you need to be real about it. And, there's like motherhood anxiety as well, because, Autumn feels like is she going to love it? She doesn't really love it right now in the moment because it's such a traumatic thing for her body. And just all those sorts of messagings, and like Jack's grief and him dealing with almost pretty much all stages of grief in a way. Angry, denial, he's just questioning everything and trying to figure things out. As I said to Kenzie before, I was under the assumption that Sylvie died in the first book. We heard nothing really much about her other than she was just in hospital, but she could have died in hospital. No, I really enjoyed Sylvie's maturity in this book as well.
And Autumn's. There's a moment I'll talk about as well, but
yeah. They're both mature in their own way, and like it seems sad that they couldn't end up really being friends.
Yeah, and I think as well because they both loved Finn. Yeah, and so at the end of the day, they're like, it's not about them; it's about Finn. And they're both loving everyone's love for Finn.
Lost him. In a way. But enjoyed it. Devastating as usual. Kick into it. What's your qualm?
Everything is easier when you're rich.
Oh, yeah.
We can talk about that when we get into Autumn's perspective.
Yeah,
let's go through it chronologically.
Yeah. Also, when you mentioned last week or the last episode about this book, how the timeline or some discourse was about the timeline being a bit disjointed, I felt that was more in Finn's point of view because we are watching his perspective, leading up to his death and the car accident, but then also there are moments of him going back to the times where he is meeting Sylvie for the first time, and like I can understand in that aspect how that was a bit disjointed, and it really kind of was a jarring experience because it wasn't really explicitly clear until you get to the context of the scene.
I just read Finn's point of view as if it's like that, when they say like when you die, like your whole life plays in 7 minutes or whatever. And then there's this whole thing for existential crisis, if anyone wants one today, where because you're playing your whole life, so you don't know, like it doesn't feel like 7 minutes. So like, are you in your 7 minutes right now?
I actually did. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I had this day once. Sorry, this is very off topic, but it's just I had this day once when I was a teenager, and like my parents had left before I woke up, like they were doing their thing or whatever, and I didn't speak like out loud for like 6 hours, and I was like, I'm dead. Like I genuinely thought I was
just
dead.
Convinced yourself that
that I had died. Yeah.
Were you incapable of speaking, or just because you just didn't speak?
I just didn't need to speak to anyone. And like social media, I was just messaging people.
I mean, I do that every other weekend. I don't talk to anyone.
Our snacks are here. I'm going to go and get them, and then I have.
Okay, cool. Yes,
thoughts.
Everything is easier when you're rich.
Yes.
Oh yeah. So we'll split this up chronologically. We're going to talk about Finn's point of view first, then Jack's, and then Autumn's. Fergus and Claire coming through with the goods. Shout out. Alright, yes, we're having a little morning tea situation, so stiff shit.
Always.
I mean, and there's a lot of like TikToks and podcasts where people just sit and eat all the time, so like this is no different. Thank you.
Alright, perfect. And another drink?
Oh no, thank you. Treating us so well.
Good old tomato sauce.
Tomato. Oh, you're making a smiley face. It's been a long time. I should have done something like that. You need a smiley face for all the depressing content we're about to discuss. Okay. Short-lived.
Bit of ketchup. Anyway, okay, I'll talk first. So yeah, Finney's perspective. Yeah, so I just imagined it as it's him in that 7 minutes, just reliving all his memories, blah, blah, blah. But then also, as with these books, where the sequel is also kind of the prequel, but also the timelines, a lot of it is just the same scenes, but from his perspective. So I skipped a bit of it. I didn't skip it, I skimmed it. I was I don't need to reread this again.
Especially like prior to the love scene, and then like after the love scene being like, you can wait to talk to Sylvie, and it's like, no, I've got to do it. And then there's I understand that, the skimming. It's very familiar. Yeah.
But then also, like, there were so many times when, he's like, oh, she's with Jamie now, like, blah, 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 but the feelings, but I'm with Sylvie, but I love her, and it's like, just tell her, like, and I know, it's so simple, and there wouldn't be a book if it was so simple, that simple to say it like that, but it's just how I feel. I get so frustrated because it's like, just tell her.
As you said last episode, it's like, just have the conversation.
And then again, obviously, we get that, we get that perspective because when he kissed Autumn when they were 13, she was scared because she wasn't ready for it. But he was like, oh, I'm going to kiss her because I'm going to show her that I love her. Like, that's how much she means to me, that I want to kiss her. Yeah, and then you really see the fallout from that. Like, he doesn't understand, but then he sees the next day because he grabbed her by like the wrist or whatever, that like she has bruises. Yeah. So he realizes that, oh, it's painful for her and kind of that kind of thing.
He thought he assaulted her in a way.
He assaulted her, yeah. And then, yeah, but we see he's kind of like, oh, I don't understand why we're not friends anymore. Like, I thought that she would know that I loved her because I kissed her. Yeah.
And that's just the naivety of young love mind as well. Like, you just don't know. Yeah. And yeah, that in itself is like a rejection. So then you just assume, all right, well, she probably doesn't love me because she's just outwardly rejected me. So why try again? And then, yeah, him dealing with his emotions still, like, yeah, he's always loved her. But then she looks and sees Autumn out with Jamie, and yeah, you just assume like she doesn't love him back because she's living her life, her relationship, all the while she's thinking, well, maybe like I do want to be with Finney, and like I do love him more than like she loves Jamie, etc., etc. And yeah, it's just frustrating. But yeah, so yeah, Finn's point of view is pretty much set a couple of days before the car accident or his death. Pretty much set when him, Jack, and Autumn hung out. And then, I don't know, does Jack just go home and then that's when they make love? Or is it just, or is it like the next day? Because I always think it's like a separate day situation.
I thought it was a separate day. I thought them hanging out was one day.
And then the next day.
And then, yeah, because she goes home to write or whatever.
Oh, that's right.
And then, so it's, yeah, that day. That's the next day.
Okay, yep. Because, yeah, I just thought it was like the one event and then Jack just went home. Again, we get the conversation with Jack and Finn that Autumn sort of overhears them whispering. It's about how Autumn should know that Phineas loves her and like she's playing you, you know, she's psychotic for doing so kind of thing.
Like she obviously knows she's playing you.
Which is obviously nice of Jack because he's trying to be protective and trying to get him out of his head.
He's seen, like, he's watched them grow up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I've seen, like, she just ignores you. Like, she's been with Jamie. Like,
from his perspective, he's seeing Autumn as a very bad friend. And it's like, which is fair because that's how she's being presented. And obviously, he doesn't appreciate that.
They're like, oh, you say that she's your best friend, but
where's she been?
Yeah.
And I loved that even though Finn cheated on Sylvie, like, it just goes to show that he truly, in a way, loved her as well. And it's not about him loving Autumn more or less than her. Like, he just has so much love for the both of them, and it's a really shit circumstance. And he does respect Sylvie, and
like he does the honourable thing by, I need to go and speak to Sylvie. Yeah. Like, to her face. Like, I'm not just going to text her.
Yeah.
I would have done that.
Yeah. It would have saved you a whole lot of trouble. It would have saved you from dying. And that's, other things where you just think about, if he had just been maybe more of a dickhead and less of a noble, honourable young man, like he perceived as the bad guy, but at least he'd be alive. Yeah. Because he's always just been known to being that nice guy who does the right thing. And yet his righteousness and his goodiness is what got him killed.
But also, he's doing the right thing. He's going to go see Sylvie, talk to her face. But also, on the way there, he does go and buy the candy for Autumn. So, you know, like, in the back of his mind, like, he's just always thinking about Autumn.
Because, and that's their whole little conversation. Like, he'll come back for her. Even though Autumn has a slight disagreement in that idea. And we learn why later, why she felt that little bit anxious. But, and then we learn more intimate details of how the crash really occurred. Like, there was, because you often wonder, well, did he just lose control and blah blah blah? But no. So he ends up going to pick up Sylvie because she's back from Europe. Fun. They go for a little drive, and this is where the breakup is kind of happening. And then it's raining, stormy, whatever. Sylvie more so confronts Phineas than he does to her because
she already knows.
She knows something's up because she's been getting emails about him being out and about with Autumn, and she's making assumptions.
I'm gonna go get her, but I just want to quickly say, because he was saying that, like, whenever, like, Sylvie called while she was on her vacation or whatever, she'd be like, oh, what are you up to? You'd be like, oh, I'm about to have breakfast, ... with Autumn. Like, but, like, he would never say that part. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go to the movies. With Autumn. Like, I'm just hanging out with Autumn.
Yeah, he really does come across as a real two-timing prick, but also the sausage roll is delicious. So good.
They're one of my favourites.
So Sylvie also confronts Finn, or has questions about what he's been doing while she's been away. Yeah. And then the fight escalates, and they're like,
and then because she's like, well, did you sleep with her?
Yeah.
And he's like, yes.
Yesterday. He was a bit sheepish about it, but of course. But there's some questions he answers and she just doesn't really believe him, even though we as the reader know it to be true, which is fair enough. And yeah, fight escalates. They kind of yell. She's yelling at him and he's just trying to focus on driving as well. She wants to be let out of the car and Finn's like, no, because we're far from home, I'm not going to let you walk in the rain, blah, blah, blah. So at some point she already unbuckled and then crash, boom, fly out the windscreen she goes. And then Finn's like trying to see if she's okay. There's a puddle, there's a downed power line, and then, you know, good night, sweet prince.
Yeah. The only thing is, it never explains the power line being down. Like,
how convenient.
Yeah, I wish we'd seen that.
What an awful place to just stop at, though.
Yeah.
Or maybe they did it. Maybe he drove into the power line.
Maybe.
And then straight away, you know, Finn's kind of pronounced dead, and then we just get straight into Jack's point of view. But no, yeah, just after that, Finn, truly loved Sylvie, and he does feel shit and guilty about putting her through all this, but it's just unfortunate. Like, she's the person he doesn't see himself with, and Autumn is that person. And like, what's he got to do?
Yeah. So yeah, we jump into Jack's point of view, and they say it's Alexis that tells him that like Finn is dead, and he's like, "What?" And she's like, "You're dead," and he's like, "What?" And it's like a whole thing, you know.
It's like she has to convince him that he's dead.
Yeah. Yeah, Alexis throws like a thing.
Very insensitive of it.
Yeah, an insensitive, like a little party, I guess you could call it, for him. And I'm pretty sure that like Sylvie's still in the hospital or something. And I think Jack says like she should be like with Sylvie, like this, like why? Yeah,
that's a whole thing. Like Alexis's behavior, very sort of like attention seeking.
Yeah, because it's all like he was my friend too, sort of thing. Like it's like okay, but you're not really directly affected by this.
Yeah. It's a weird kind of idea to grasp because you know, I suppose we will never know like how close her and Finn actually were and like what their interactions were. And and I think Jack is just having the whole like, I've known him longer, so like I should hurt more, which is also fair enough in a way. And that's also another evidence of that was there was a girl talking about how Finn always had like pencils for her in a particular class, and like that's the only story she can really go off of.
Yeah, Maddie's pencil.
Yeah. Yeah, ultimately Jack is going through it in his point of view.
Yeah.
Poor guy. Yeah, poor Jack. He deals with a lot of issues in his point of view. Again, dealing with his own grief. And then obviously later on realises that people were kind of only friends with him because he was friends with Finn, because Finny, whatever, because he was the popular nice guy, bit of a jockey type of guy. And so Jack goes through that thing where he doesn't really feel appreciated by his friends, or they don't really care about him either. At points he's angry at Sylvie because she's like, well, why was your seatbelt unbuckled, blah blah blah. And then he's angry at Autumn because this whole thing was about Autumn.
Yeah, like he goes and cleans out Finn's car for his mum, for Finn's mum, which is really nice, selfless thing to do. Yeah, like he finds the bag of candy and condoms and he holds on to it because he's angry. He's like, well, this is Autumn's fault, like if she had realised sooner or whatever.
Yeah, so he's throwing a lot of anger around and trying to figure out like what happened, what went down. It's nice that he offered to help Angelina as well, like from the get-go, because he knew that's kind of also what Finn would have wanted, like once his mother to be supported. But then I think there was a point where they asked him to hang out with Autumn and he really kind of didn't want to because he's angry at her in a way. But then he sort of softens a bit because she's obviously in a bad way as well. She's sort of half catatonic in a way. She's on the couch, not really doing anything, not really talking.
Yeah, he goes over and her voice is hoarse.
Yeah.
And he's like, are you sick? And she's like, no, I was screaming.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of...
Yeah, she's losing it, Your Honour. And we see like that sort of mental decline in Autumn through Jack's chapters as well, which is also really nice to see because then it's lovely to see her bounce back in her other chapter. Yeah. Spoiler alert. But yeah, Jack, he's really going through it, and this is they've just finished high school, so they're en route to college, and like he has to deal with this and then in turn leave for college. Like how does he deal with that? And there
was a moment, where like he gets invited to a party by like his brothers, but kind of like no one wants to like talk to him or whatever. Because it's like, well, no one wants like to hang around with the guy whose best friend died. Like,
because it's a bit of a depressing time. Of
course.
And
they don't understand because, of course, they're teenagers and they don't know how. This is probably one of their first very huge grief moments in their life, and they don't know how to deal with it.
Yeah, and then obviously that's where Jack feels alienated and he feels like they don't really care about him. But they all constantly ask if he's okay at the party and stuff, which obviously is not enough, but Jack was suffice with that effort.
And sometimes, like, you don't want people to ask if you're okay. You just want people to be like, if you need anything, I'm here. Like, because obviously you're not okay.
Or even actions, like them hanging out with him throughout, I don't know, the break or whatever.
Yeah, and then obviously, like, I know it's hard to not say, are you okay? But just assume that people aren't okay.
Yeah. But I think also what Jack realizes, like, they're all having the same sort of conversations with each person. It's like, oh, how are you? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. Oh, you're going to college soon? Oh, that's a fresh start for you. And he gets really hung up on that. And he's also, you know, realizing the things that he's already kind of missing about Finn, like him not being able to, like, be up in his room ever again sort of thing, like how they have a particular running route together, and he's very anxious about not knowing, like, if he's gonna run or if he can run that same route anymore, because, you know, that's him and Finn's route and it's something special to him. It's all about Jack really confronting the loss of Finn and how it's going to impact his life, because they're best friends. So Jack goes off to college,
and he and Finn were meant to be rooming together. That's right. So that's a bit awkward. And, like, their RA, their resident advisor, is like, oh, like,
I never knew that's what the RA was called. But it's just always RA in the American media. So.
Resident advisor.
Love it.
Usually an upperclassman. But yeah, it's like, oh, like, we're waiting on, like, Phineas Smith or whatever. And they're just like, well, he's dead. Yeah. And he's like, I'm going to go and sort some stuff out.
yeah. It's very blunt about that sort of thing when people kind of tiptoe around. So, he eventually gets a new roommate. Named Brett, who I think Jack finds just weird for some reason.
Yeah, well, he's quiet, like, kind of keeps to himself. He has a photo of himself on a baseball card on his desk or whatever. But then they kind of, like, ships in the night. Yeah. But then we find out later, because Jack walks in on him crying, and we find out that
Poppy is providing royalty-free music. We love it.
Singing the song of her people.
It's like, I don't want you to stop, but quiet it down.
Find out that the baseball card is of his twin brother, and his twin brother died when they were younger. So,
like 4 years ago. Yeah.
And he's just like, oh, my best friend died. So,
like,
but you can see why they teamed them up.
Yeah, and obviously it's a realization for Jack that, like, his perception of Brett was weird because he was quiet, but he's just still grieving because, you know, he was meant to kind of... They were also best friends despite being brothers. Yeah. And they were meant to live their life together, etc. Yeah. So because they were twins, the baseball card was of his brother?
It was of his brother, yeah.
And Jack sort of has a perspective moment. Yeah. Because by the same token, Jack was quiet and he wasn't really trying to make conversation or get to know Brett as well. So, like, in Brett's eyes, Jack could also be weird. Yeah. Or be seen as weird and unsocial. Yeah. But, and that's the thing with Jack, learning other people's perspectives, and, like, he is not the world's main character, you know. He's not the only one that's grieving. Oh, also, there was, like, the funeral stuff as well. Oh, yes. He was a pallbearer for the... Yes. Coffin.
I liked as well because he went to the funeral and Autumn was there, like, really early, and then she was just talking to Finn's coffin, which is an incredibly sad,
losing it,
like,
because that was the last time she could really spend with him.
And she tells Jack, she's like, oh, I'm giving Sylvie the funeral, like, she deserves that. So, which I think was very mature of her.
It was mature, but I feel like it's not.
It's like the least you could do.
I just think you shouldn't really appease it. Yeah. I don't know. They've been best friends since they were kids, or for a very long time. And Sylvie and Finn have been in a romantic relationship for only 4 years. Like, I don't want to pull rank or anything, but Autumn still had just as a right to be there. But I think also
if Autumn was there, I think that other people would have turned it into a, like, who's grieving more situation, Sylvie or Autumn. Like,
yeah, I know, but I feel like, like, I understand the sentiment behind it, but I just felt like Autumn still had a right to be there. And Jack and Sylvie sort of hang out after the funeral. And Sylvie's, very, like, a wise comments and commentary on everything, and she doesn't hate Autumn. Yeah. But in the moment, she does hate Phineas because at the end of the day, he did cheat on her. Yeah. And he was, in her eyes, he'd been cheating on her while she was in Europe. But, like, she won't kind of forgive Autumn, but she just, like, there's an understanding there that, like, they're not going to be friends. Mm-hmm. And Autumn that Sylvia does wish her well and everything, and good luck in life.
And then, obviously, Jack back at college, I think, is it Alexis who calls him again? And it's like, oh, Autumn tried to kill herself. Well,
Yeah, I think so.
So he goes to visit Autumn, and she tells him that she's pregnant, and he's like, okay.
He's like, if you need any help.
Yeah, he is being, and I thought, and I wanted this to happen, but I also knew that the other thing was going to happen. I wanted Jack to step into Finney's shoes.
I didn't want that. I think because he just like hated her and like disliked her in a way for so long. I feel like just because there's a baby and now there's a part of Phineas that's going to be alive again, like I just feel like that's not a good intention to have.
Oh, well, I thought it was going to be cute.
I thought about it because he in his own inner monologue, he was like, am I going to have to help with diapers, or do you need money for diapers? And it's like, I know what you're trying to do, but no, it's a big responsibility as well. Like, these are like 18, 19-year-olds.
Yeah. And then also he goes back home as well at one point, and he drives past his house, and he notices that the lawn is a bit unkempt, so he goes over, doesn't say anything, just mows the lawn. So sad. And I was like, oh my God. And like Autumn is out of the hospital at this point.
No, this was before the hospital visit.
Oh, before the hospital. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway. And so he's mowing the lawn, and then like he sees that she's staring, and he goes over, and she's like, "Oh, sorry, like I just imagined that you were Finny mowing the lawn," and I'm like, "Girl, you are losing it."
Yeah, and then that moment, he realized that she was losing it a little bit, and she was being really ill about it. But then at the end of the day, it's like it's her grief, and like it's her best friend for so long as well,
like literally her whole life.
Yeah, her other half essentially like just gone.
Yeah.
And then, then she attempts to commit suicide, and then Jack sort of calls back to that moment and is like, I knew something was wrong with her.
That's right. I should have said something. Yeah, I should have tried to help more. I should have reached out more.
Yeah.
I knew that she wasn't doing okay.
So he's a little bit guilty about that, which is nice.
Yeah. But also, that's not his responsibility.
Oh, to call it out, sure, but like it's not really his responsibility to help her in a way either, because they're not really friends, which isn't like a bad idea, but like if you're comfortable to help somebody, feel free to do that.
Yeah.
And so Autumn's just not doing too well, or kind of recovering in the mental hospital as well. And then I think that just kind of dissolves, and then we enter. Oh, I think the end of Jack's point of view really is he's creating. Really, it was him bonding more with Brett, but he creates a routine for himself. He's setting himself up, and I think Brett said to him, one day you're going to think of Finn, and it's not going to hurt as much, or hurt really at all. And I think Jack is just biding his time for that moment as well.
Do we launch into Autumn's?
Unless there's anything else you want to say about Jack's chapter. Like, it was very full on, and it was a lot because he was going through all the emotions, angry, sadness, and then guilt because of the Autumn situation, and just almost more suffering as a contest for him because it's his best friend and he's grieving so much. And like, and he breaks up with Alexis because Alexis is like an immature brat. Yeah. And then him and Sylvie become buds, and then obviously in Autumn's chapter become a little bit more.
Yeah, he says that like something's happening there. And it's like, okay. And it's like, stop being incestuous, all of you.
The friend group.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the way it is sometimes, I guess. And so Autumn's chapter. I forget how it starts. Is she in the mental hospital, or did she just leave?
I think she's just leaving, maybe.
Oh yeah, I didn't really write it down, but Autumn leaves the mental hospital. She's feeling a little bit better. Her old friend Angie reaches out as well.
Yes, and I want to talk about this.
Okay.
Because, let's talk about this part first then. So her old friend Angie, who obviously had sex one time, got pregnant, just like Autumn, anyway, but she married Dave or whatever. He talks about how, because like Dave is working and going to school, and they're living in his parents' basement, and so she was saying how, everyone kind of was reaching out at the start of college, but now it's kind of died off. Yeah, they're all just kind of in different places, so it can be like so debilitating, but there's so much love, but also like it's so lonely and you don't get, time to yourself or whatever.
She always feels like she loses an identity as a mother.
And I want to talk about this because, I relate to this a lot. And I wasn't really a young mum, but in the eyes of society, I was a young mum.
Hey, my sister was, under the eyes of society, was treated like a young mum.
And, I was like kind of the first in my friend group to have babies. So it was really debilitating, and I have lost friends. It's through no fault of anyone's, but obviously we are in different life places. Like I have friends who used to be, like my bestest friends in the world. We went through high school together, and they haven't even met my kids, you know. My son's nearly 4, so stuff like that. So I really felt for Angie and could, you know, see myself in Angie there. But and then when she talks about, you know, but like it's like a love like no other as well. So yeah, I really liked that because sometimes in media I feel like they can sensationalize teen pregnancy and like it's so easy and great and everything works out, it's all fine.
It's the assumption that your family is going to be supportive.
Yeah.
But like a lot of this topic is spread throughout Autumn's book, you know, the more she interacts with Angie. So like it's alright, it's nice that we get to like just get it out of the way.
Yeah. But then yeah, obviously they become good friends again as well, so that's good.
Autumn learns a lot from Angie, and Angie doesn't really like pressure her to like even keep the baby, because there was a point where Autumn is like she wants to do it for Finny, but her mum's like, you got to want to do it for yourself, and you want to be enthusiastic, I guess, about it. So it takes a little time for her to turn that around. And then Angie is just being honest with her about you know, the anxieties and the stresses of motherhood and just pregnancy in general, and Autumn's just like taking it all in. And it doesn't really scare her away or anything, which like I wouldn't blame her if it did, because she's 19 or 18, 19 and wasn't expecting this.
I feel like as well, oh my god, what was I gonna say?
Angie, baby, pregnancy, hospital, anxiety, stress, Autumn.
It doesn't even matter. It's gone. It's completely gone.
No.
Anyway, and then so also the mothers are really supportive, and they take Autumn shopping for things, and Angelina wants to go. See, it's confusing because it's Angelina and Angie.
Yeah, that's right. I realized in the last episode I called it Angela or something, not Angelina.
Anyway, Angelina like wants to go to, you know, like the secondhand markets and stuff, but then Autumn's mum wants to go to like the bougie baby stores and stuff.
I mean, it's easy to want to go to the bougie when you're not paying for it.
And so Autumn notices that like her mum has like this credit card and like she's paying for things like this credit card, and she's like, she just assumes like, it must be Dad's money, like that's because he divorced. He's like, see ya.
That's what I assumed as well.
To a degree. And then I was like, I bet it's Phineas Trust Fund. So anyway, bougie, whatever. And then like Angelina and Autumn are having this conversation at one point or whatever, and Autumn says like, it's on Dad's money. And then Angelina's like, why? It's not your dad's money. Like, why did you assume that? And she's like, I just thought. And then you find out that Finny's dad and Autumn's mum came to like an agreement that they can access Finny's trust fund to pay for things for the baby. And Autumn is like, what the fuck?
Because the trust fund was built out of guilt for Phineas's father not being there
every
for
time
him.
he felt guilty about things, then he just put more money in, essentially.
I wouldn't mind a trust fund.
I wouldn't mind a guilty parent, distant parent trust fund, absent parent trust fund.
Yeah. That's what it should always be called.
Yeah.
Absent parent trust fund.
And also, like Finny's dad bought Finny his car and stuff. And then Autumn and like arranges a meeting with Finny's dad because, you know, they find out that, well, like you could sue because you're having Finny's baby. So really like the money belongs to your child. So you can sue for like rights to the money or whatever.
Because there were stipulations with this arrangement as well, that Phineas's dad wants like photos and interactions.
Yeah, as much as she's willing to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, in good conscience, and the fact that what Autumn knows about his dad, she doesn't really want him in the baby's life. But like, then they meet up and have a conversation.
Yeah. So they arrange a meeting. And he talks about how guilty he was, but he already remarried. And then when Finny came and met, like new family, essentially, like his stepmother was like really cold and distant towards him, which like I just I don't understand that in real life and in media. It's like you obviously married / got together with this person. Like, so you must have liked something about them. Yeah. And then their children are just an extension of them. Like,
and it's, and they want a relationship with them. But I suppose it becomes like a battle between, like, the children and, like, the families. Like, where does his loyalty lie? Yeah. And it turns out that relationship and family was being broken apart anyway.
Exactly.
So, poor guy can't win.
Yeah.
There's another sob story, though.
It is, of course.
Yeah.
But anyway, and so, and he was like, I brought the papers anyway to just like hand the money over to you, like it belongs to you and your child.
He acknowledges that it did come off very manipulative, and like now he only wants whatever she's willing to give him, whether it be photos, visitation, etc., etc. Because like I don't know, there's also discourse on social media these days about like grandparents' rights and all that stuff, and I feel like grandparents inherently don't have rights to like grandchildren because it's not, you're just grandchildren, you're just the grandparent. Like, unless you are their legal guardian
Yeah.
in whatever capacity.
Yeah.
Then
But
sure.
that's the thing, though. That's what grandparents' rights are. Like, if you, quote unquote, keep their grandchild from them, they can sue you.
Oh, really?
Grandparent rights, yeah, for rights to visitation and stuff. I've seen this a lot in the mum scripts
Like,
that I mean, with, like,
yeah,
toxic mother-in-laws and stuff.
But I do see a lot of, where people have to limit time with their grandparents because of toxicity, or like then they don't respect the boundaries the parents hold and all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like,
The Family Law Act, this is for our state that we live in.
okay,
The Family Law Act outlines that a child has a right to spend time and communicate with both their parents and other people significant to their welfare and development, such as grandparents. In some situations, a grandparent can apply for parenting orders to have access to their grandchildren.
Jeez, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Fun to learn new things.
Yes.
I didn't realize it was like that, but cool. But yeah, so that issue with the money is resolved. But yes, everything is easier when you're rich, because I think Autumn had a bit of a little moment where she's like, I'm gonna have to pay for things. Like, how's that gonna happen?
Yeah.
And then sweep in trust fund.
And then she finds out that there's enough money.
Like she could go to college, the kid could go to college.
Yeah.
Plenty.
Yeah.
Like a house, maybe.
And then and then still, like, there's heaps of money in that.
Yeah, like he was very guilty.
Yeah.
Felt really bad.
Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yes.
It's sad.
And then also, because Autumn is dealing with grief and stuff, she goes to her therapist, and she's like trying out different therapists or whatever.
This.
Yeah, and she doesn't like them for different reasons, and like, I feel that.
She feels like judged, or a particular therapist didn't like Phineas, which is odd because everyone liked Phineas.
Yeah. So she ends up...
it was actually Sylvie's therapist that didn't trust Phineas. Never mind. But...
Anyway, and she ends up back with Dr. Singh from the first one, and then who happens to also run like an adult, like
PTSD therapy
group session. So she goes to that, and she meets Brittany, who lost a child to cancer, had a miscarriage.
What hasn't happened to her?
Yeah, had a miscarriage, and then also was like in foster care, and then also now has a 3-year-old or something.
I think she left an abusive ex as well, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, so it's a whole thing. So then her and Autumn kind of become friends.
Yeah, Dr. Singh kind of pushed them kind of together. Or he said to Autumn, like, you could learn something from Brittany because, she's a survivor of it all, essentially.
Yeah. Autumn talks about how she like is going to the 20-week scan, which is the anatomy scan. Well, she calls it the organ scan or something, which is the one where they make sure everything is working and stuff. Been there.
There was too much emphasis on that, and I felt like something was going to go wrong.
Yes. So I thought something was going to go wrong because I felt like, because in her story that she wrote, they lost a baby, I'm pretty sure.
I don't remember the intricate details of the novel. But...
Anyway, so I was like, oh my God, what if the baby...
She's living her novel.
Yeah, like, what if something is wrong with the baby? Oh, and then there is something wrong with the baby.
Yeah, there is.
So the baby has like a hole in their heart, but it's fine. Like,
I had a hole in my heart when I was a baby. I'm fine.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you have to have surgery?
I believe it just healed by itself over time.
They do that, yeah.
Yeah.
My cousin had a hole in his heart and he had to have surgery.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I felt seen.
Yeah.
We both relate to this in one way or another now.
So yeah, and then what does she name the child? Is it Vivian?
No, I don't think.
Who has a Vivian? Oh, other book.
Yeah, Cowboy
Books.
Yeah,
let me find out.
I'm pretty sure we don't see the name because in the moment, also during the organ scan, she finds out the sex accidentally, even though she didn't want to, because the doctor had a little bit of a freak out and was like, "Oh, she's blah blah blah."
Yeah,
kind of reveals it, but everyone's happy.
Yeah.
And like Brittany was like. She's like a pregnant psychic. Like she knows had a good idea how far along Autumn was, and she's like, "It's going to be a girl. Trust me." And I loved, her relationship with Brittany because like they kind of understand each other. They don't really judge each other. Brittany has a very sort of blunt attitude. Like shit happens, you got to deal with it, and then like move on, which is nice. But her story is quite sad in that her parents were doctors, and then it just turned to drugs, and then either died or fucked off. I don't know which one. They died. Just imagine you go to medical school for 100 years, and the biggest of bucks your entire life, and then you just resort to drugs. Like what a waste.
Yeah,
I'm sure it happens, but what a waste. Yeah, it's nameless, really.
Nameless. Hope his name's Finn or something.
And then it was just nice to see Autumn also go through the motions of her life and anxiety of motherhood. Does she want it for herself? And she does want it for herself, and she finds ways to get excited about it. Like when they go shopping for maternity wear and just like baby like nursery objects and stuff, and she's she's really finding excitement for it all. And like she showed Angela one day, like even just showing the drawers where all the pajamas and stuff are, like she's showing enthusiasm. She's, you know, realizing that she really does want to do this, which is great.
And then it's right at the end that we find out that Jack and Sylvie are doing the do. Which is fine, I guess. I wanted him to end up with Autumn, but I guess
no, I don't agree with that. But no, it's nice that Jack and Sylvie have an understanding and appreciation for each other.
Yeah. And I like how, you know, at the end of the day, like Sylvie is like, oh well, I wish nothing but the best for.
Oh yeah, and there were some sly sort of interactions between Sylvie and another character to tell Autumn. Like I think she ran into Finn's dad once and was like, "Oh, if you see Autumn, can you tell her I wish her well?"
Yeah.
And like even if with Angela,
because he's putting together stories.
Oh yeah, that's
about
right.
Finny, so he's
again because he's super guilty about being so absent in his life. Like he wants to hear the stories of what other people think about Phineas and all that type of stuff. And then Autumn's like wanting to make like a picture book and stuff about him anyway for the kids. So it's become a nice little uniting family project. But it's just so sad and devastating, and everyone's like grieving their own way. Oh, and also, Autumn was going through the anxiety of, even though it's my kid, like it's gonna die one day. Like, that's gonna open up old wounds, and then not Angela. Angie brings up like SIDS, how babies, you know, can sometimes in the first few months could just stop breathing and die, and like that's a little anxiety that Autumn is exposed to, and you know, she's also reading motherhood books, and she's trying to figure out like what type of parenting style she wants to have and all that type of stuff. So it's great following her journey, and that she's actually genuinely getting better, and she knows for a fact that she's never going to try dying again.
It's like I feel so seen because like I read all the books, I did all the things with my first child, and then like it all just goes out the window. And then
like,
with my second
were
child,
you stressed out when you're trying to learn because you're like you want to know the best ways possible to avoid certain things?
And I did like the whole like birthing course and stuff. And then my birth plan with my first just didn't go to plan at all anyway. And then, trying to, like, read, like, different, like, types of parenting or whatever, or, like, other people's experiences. And then, like, what you need, what you don't need.
You're, like over-analysing everything.
It is so overwhelming. And now, like, with my second, it's just so chill. But, like, we've had friends that have had their first now. And it's so interesting, like, watching them
you were
learn.
there.
Yeah, and I was like, I've been there. And that's, like, you know, because in Australia, you have like midwife visits, so like they came out like in the first 2 weeks they come out like 6 times or something, like to see you or whatever.
Wow, 6 times, that's pretty good.
Like for weighs in, it's like a weigh in at like day 1, like the day they come home from hospital, then like day 3, 5, 7, like every like second day.
I suppose I want to make sure they're on track.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, and then I remember talking to my friends, and she was like, oh my God, like, I'm so glad that they came because I had different questions every single time.
Oh,
and I'm
nice.
like, I had no questions the first time. Like, well, the second time I had no questions. Like, I'm just like, it's chill. Like,
at that point, you kind of know what you're doing.
Well, you'd hope so.
With more confidence.
Yeah.
And, like, being a new parent regardless would be fucking scary and hard anyway.
Yeah, it is scary, yeah.
It's like, you just don't know how... And then I think in the book as well, like, there's a moment where Angie goes to the counter and the baby's her baby's stirring, and... Autumn was able to soothe her and calm her down and everything. And then Angie's like, well, you're a natural. So instinctually it works for her. But no, I'm so glad you feel seen. It's not often
very seen in this book.
it's not often. You get like hints and glimpses of these sorts of things in other books, and they're not really explored upon.
And I feel like, again, in like a lot of books that I've read or like in media and stuff, like again, like parenting is just like so sensationalized that it seems so easy, like everything comes naturally. But yeah, shall we go to the stars that listen?
We do. Do you have stars?
I do have stars.
All right,
because I wasn't as devastated by this book. But that's okay. The Stars That Listen is a segment that we do at the end of our podcast where we go and find a 5-star review and a 1-star review that we think we relate to, or we think is funny, or we want to fight with, just from Goodreads. And we don't search too hard for these. So yeah, but we always start with a 1-star because we like to end on a good note.
Yeah, so I have 2 1-stars in the same screenshot. Alrighty, my first 1-star review. If you somehow made it to the sequel, save yourself the time and burn it. As Sylvie said, aren't they all kind of woohoo, I'm so quirky? She wears a tiara every day and seems to like the way Jamie tosses her around in public. Sylvie is the only good character. I said it.
Oh my God.
And then the second 1-star review underneath it is just DNF.
I have, bitch, I already know this book is going to be just as boring and overrated as the first. And then I have a waste of time, literally didn't add any new information. Jack's POV was literally the whole book, and all we got from his was the funeral talking about Sylvie and shitting on Autumn.
I kept track of the percentages, and it was 40% Finn, but around about 35% Jack, and then the rest was Autumn.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was even disparity. But I did feel like we spent a lot of time on Jack.
Yeah.
Considering we didn't really know much of him in the first book. But anyway. Alrighty, I have 2 5-star reviews in the same screenshot.
I have 2, but not in the same screenshot.
The first one is sobbed. I'm destroyed. 5 stars. And the second one is, this is the closure I needed after reading the first book, and it's destroying me. I almost bawled a countless amount of times while reading, but it was worth it. This book revisits what happens, but more than that, works through the grief of all the characters had to face. It talks about the good, the bad, and the scary that preceded Finny's death. A must read if you love the first one.
I literally cried my way through this entire book, and I'm not mentally stable enough for this, but I'm still going to read it because I'd do anything for Finny and Autumn.
Love it. Love it.
Yes. So, as usual, thank you all for listening. Thanks for coming to our TED Talk.
Yep.
And we...
On grief and depression and pregnancy.
Yes. You can catch us on Instagram at letterbox_book_club. From there, our link tree is in our bio, where you'll find us in all the places: Spotify, TikTok, YouTube, all the places. Join us next week for I don't know what we're doing, because I never know what we're doing, and that's fine. We love a mystery.
Surprise.
Surprise.
Surprise. Shouty.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.